نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا ومن يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Indeed, all praise is due to Allah. We praise Him. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil in our soul and from our sinful deeds. Those who are guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no one can misguide them. Those who are not guided by Allah, there is no guide for them. I bear witness that there is no God, there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is a servant and messenger. O you who believe, revere Allah as He should be revered, and die not except as Muslims in submission to Him. I'm about to proceed. Just quickly for announcements, in lieu of the February potluck, the Faith Club at the United Church of Christ in the Villages at 4 p.m. And I know that's a difficult time for people, but in retirement villages they tend to do things on a different timetable. I highly recommend you to support this. I'd like to see as many Muslims fill that church as possible. One of the stars of the show is Sister Naran. She is Rania, a Palestinian Muslim. That's her role in the play. So I would really like for us to come out. We are discussing having a forum afterwards. It would really be good for Muslims to be there. I know it's a difficult time. If you can carpool, that would be great. But anyway, please be in prayer for this. If you can't be there with us physically, please pray with us. I'm not going to go over this because I've beaten this dead horse long enough. We collect this stuff. It's part of Dawah. Please help us, support us in doing that. I was speaking to Sister Khadija and telling her that all of our classes are uploaded to YouTube. We were just having a conversation about this. And so if you don't know how to get to that, talk to Maysoon and she'll tell you how to get to it. If you don't get our group invites, call Maysoon and she'll hook you up. She's very eager to do that. Continue to pray for Brother Malik's leg. He's still having some challenges with that. Kathy's parents, please be in prayer for them. Is there anybody else that needs special prayers or anything for any specific?
Is Dr. Nasser's father?
Oh, and Dr. Nasser lost his father, and so please pray for him. He lost his mother like 62 or 3 days prior to losing his father. So please be in prayer for Dr. Nasser. So, we have been talking about Surah Al-Baqarah, verses 172 and 173, and we have been looking at eating that which is pure, and we had one class where we talked in depth about what that means. And today, the first part of this class, I want to focus on what foods are actually considered halal and haram. As I travel, people will say, can I eat frog legs? Can I eat crocodile? Can I eat this? Can I eat duck? Can I eat goose? And so I'm going to tell you what you can eat and the hadiths and the Quran behind it and why certain issues are controversial. And I know Isa had asked me one day, can you eat shark? So you'll have to pass it on to him. I'm going to be talking about why there's a controversy among the scholars about a shark as well. So then if we have time, because the day is very exciting, we have our monthly Jeopardy game today, which is always exciting. So if I don't get to finish it, then we'll obviously pick up inshallah next week. I want to break at 12:20.
But she's not here.
She is. She just arrived. MashaAllah. There she is over the coffee pot. She's getting her caffeine fix. Alhamdulillah. So, O you who believe in the oneness of Allah, Islamic monotheism, eat of the lawful things that we have provided you with, and be grateful to Allah. It is indeed He whom you worship. He has forbidden you only the maita, the dead animals, and blood, and the flesh of swine, and that which is slaughtered as a sacrifice for other than Allah. But if one is forced by necessity without willful disobedience, nor transgressing due limits, then there is no sin on him. Truly Allah is oft-forgiving, most merciful. So, something happened really funny here. What happened?
Yeah, you can manage that.
I know, but what's happening is the next. Oh, okay. I don't know what happened. Anyway, earlier in these verses, the aim was to correct the error made by the mushrikeen when they made unlawful what was good and permissible. We talked about some of those things and how that worked. In verse 172, the believers are being warned against falling into the same error. As a corollary, believers are reminded of Allah's blessings and are taught to be grateful. In verse 173, it is made clear that the prohibited must remain prohibited and should never be treated as lawful, something the disbelievers used to do when they ate carrion or animals slaughtered in the name of other than Allah. Now, what's real interesting is that you will see sort of that this is a prelude to the verses that we'll be going over next, in that you will begin to see a shift from the tangible that was prohibited to the intangible, and how this flow, this continuous flow of the same idea is there in Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah commands His believing servants to eat from the pure things that He has created for them and to thank Him for it, if they are truly His servants. Eating from pure sources is a cause for the acceptance of supplications and acts of worship, just as eating from impure sources prevents the acceptance of supplication. These are the wrong slides. I'm sorry. It's supposed to be 1814. Just a second.
I give you some very good surah.
That's okay. It's okay.
Al-Ma'idah. Al-Ma'idah is all about food. Al-Ma'idah.
Just a second here. Let me get right here. Because this is what we did last week. I apologize. I had highlighted 1814 as the starting point. Let's see.
I'll take full responsibility.
So that's okay, no problem. Here's where we're supposed to be next. Salam alaikum. The Musnad al-Muwatta and the Sunan reported the Prophet ﷺ saying about the sea, its water is pure and its dead are permissible. So we know that in the sea, when you catch a fish, you reel it in, usually throw it on ice, but when you take the fish, it's dead, right? Now, one of the things you're going to see is that, what do we know about saline?
Preservative. Preserves.
It cleans, it preserves. So some of the scholars say that part of the permissibility of this is because of saline. The salinity of the ocean actually purifies something. Allahu Alam, Allah knows best, but I want you to understand, when you're in the community and people talk about this stuff, then you have a lot to add. You can actually have far more information about this than maybe they do. As Shafi Ahmed ibn Majah and Ad-Daraqutni reported that Ibn Umar said that the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we have been allowed 2 dead things and 2 bloody things, fish and locusts. Now, does anybody know what locusts are without looking at the board? Because a lot of people don't. They're actually sort of like winged grasshoppers, but they have wings. Other than grasshoppers don't have wings. And in certain cultures, they actually eat this as a delicacy, and they eat them alive. As a matter of fact, if you get on Google, you can do a YouTube that shows, I think it's a Filipino lady actually eating them. And the locust is crawling on her mouth, and she pulls it in and crunches it and says, this is so good. So if I had known how to embed it in the lesson today, I would have embedded that YouTube. But I have a lot to learn.
Fried are better tasting.
Okay. So just so you know, that is halal. These winged grasshoppers are halal. And liver and spleen. So matter of fact, a lot of times after women are menstruating or after birth, they will eat liver because that helps the hemoglobin. According to Ash-Shafi and other scholars, milk and eggs that are inside dead, unslaughtered animals are not pure because they are part of the dead animal. In one narration from him, Malik said that they are pure themselves but become impure because of their location. Similarly, there is a difference of opinion over the cheeses made with milk of dead animals. Now, I'm sharing this because 28 years ago, when I became Muslim, there was this big discussion about rennet. Now, probably, how many people know what rennet is?
I don't.
Okay.
You make cheese and...
There are two people in the room that know what it is. So, I didn't know what it was. And I was at the masjid, and I brought cheese and crackers, I think it's a snack. As I stopped for Allah, they said, we can't eat that, it's got rennet in it.
Oh my God.
So I said, what are you talking about? So don't be surprised if somebody ever tells you that, but now you're going to have the hadith about this. Don't be afraid, you can still have macaroni and cheese, that's why we bring it to dishes. But you'll see at least the argument.
Actually, my
So-
child's mother doesn't eat cheese for that very reason.
For that reason?
Yeah. So here you go. There's someone in the class that actually knows about this. So let's talk about that and where the scholars come from. Rennet is actually part of a complex enzyme system that is in the stomach to digest mother's milk. Okay? We all know that various kinds of enzymes design the proteins and the carbohydrates. They're different. For example, the enzymes that digest carbohydrates start on your tongue and starts breaking the food down as soon as it touches the tongue, whereas meat is only started to be digested in your stomach. So these are like different kind of enzymes. So this rennet is found in the stomach of animals, and some Muslims will not eat it if that's the case. In the Hanafi school and the Hanbali school, so you need to take a picture of this so that when people come up, you can say to them, oh, by the way, are you from the Hanafi school or the Hanbali school? And most of them are going to say, I don't even know what you're talking about. But somebody told me once upon a time that I couldn't eat this. So then you're going to be a little smarter and a little more educated. So if the Hanafi school or the Hanbali school rennet obtained from an animal slaughtered by a non-Muslim or Muslim in accordance with Islamic law or contrary to it, in all cases is permissible as long as the animal in question is not a pig.
There are
So-
Wahhabi too.
So Hanafi and Hanbali, yes. Okay, yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I went to Whole Foods and they had some cheeses that had vegetarian rennet. And
Yeah.
I asked the lady there about it, and she told me that they either use vegetarian rennet or they use it from beef. They don't have them. She may be wrong, but she said that at Whole Foods they don't have pork rennet in their cheeses.
Right. But see, it's not only an issue of pork for those madhabs, it's an issue of that enzyme being present. But good thinking. And this is the reason that there's an 800 number on most foods that you buy, so you can call the company. If you elect to adopt this as your practice, the Prophet was not a Hanafi, he wasn't a Hanbali, he wasn't a Shafi, he wasn't a Maliki. And it was enough for him, the Quran and his Sunnah. I am not going to live my life in the yoke of the burden of all of these details. But the reason I'm sharing this with you is to give you a greater understanding of these verses and why you hear this thing. Why you hear this, and so that you can make a valid argument. So, Hanafi and Hanbali school of thought, taught opinion follows, basically their thought and their opinions are found in Southeast Asia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, and Australia. This masjid, for example, is predominantly a Hanafi masjid. The approach that this masjid will have will come from the Hanafi school. Just so you know. And again, I'm going to repeat it. I'm not big on schools because I think it's too complicated for reverts and even the majority of people that embrace Islam. But understand where this stuff comes from. It's very important for you to be empowered with this knowledge.
Imam Sykes, okay, so rennet is in all animals, female animals produce it, right?
Yes.
So what is it's an enzyme, so what, I don't understand what the problem they have, because it could be pork?
Well, no, if it's pork, it's definitely haram.
Right.
But just because they said it, I'm just simply, I can't give you all the answers about this. I wish I could. I'm trying to give you as much as I can. I'm going to give you some hadiths to help you see where to go with this, and I think that's going to even be better. Yes, dear?
What happened, so I think to Susan's question, the animal was not, in this country, if the animal is not slaughtered halal, then the rennet from that animal is not halal for us.
Okay, so if it is slaughtered halal,
Then it's
the
good for
cheese
us.
from that animal.
Yes.
Okay.
Then it would be good for us.
And yet, some schools would not partake of cheese unless they knew that it was made from, well, they just take it another degree. They make it more serious. I think it's better to leave it at that. It has been narrated in the major hadith collections from Abdullah ibn Umar, radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet ﷺ was brought cheese in Tabuk. He asked for a knife, then recited Bismillah and cut the cheese. So here is a proof that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ ate cheese. Okay. Imam Ibn Abi Shabia narrated that the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ was asked about the use of cheese prepared by the non-Muslims. He said, it is all right. Just put a knife in it, mention Allah's name, and eat it. And these are two authentic hadiths. These are the hadiths that I use so that, you know, I don't get freaked out about cheese. Obviously, I don't want any cheese made from a pig. I don't want anything made from a pig. But these are hadiths that you can say, and these are great pictures to have in your phone, by the way, because it's not easy to find some of these hadiths. Kashaf al-Qina in Hanbali fiqh states that the cheese of the Zoroastrians and other polytheists is allowed even if it is made from the rennet of animals they slaughtered, which would mean that the cheese made by the people of the book is also allowed. The option of the Maliki and Shafi schools is that such rennet is impure. Maliki and Shafi opinions, majority in the Middle East, Eastern Europe, North Africa, and are Shafi and Maliki. So here you see where the controversy comes in the schools. I'm going to stick with the hadiths and with the Quran myself. And you have the choice to choose whatever you'd like to. There's no compulsion in Islam. The allowed is what Allah has allowed in His book, and the prohibited is what Allah has prohibited in His book. What He has not mentioned is a part of what He is pardoned. But I want to talk today about some of the questionable things and why. Just for your knowledge, because I promise you, you've heard these discussions, most of you. And so here are the common foods that I've been asked about. Alligator meat is halal, as it does not fall in the category prohibited by the clear text. So you can try alligator tail if you'd like to, if you go to Park 310 and Winter Park or any of those restaurants that serve gator, it is halal. Sheep, goats, cows, buffaloes, camels, deer, chickens, turkeys, goose, ducks, ostriches, quails, pigeons, partridges, and other animals are halal if slaughtered in conformity with the practices of Islam. Now, having said this, there is some controversy about certain chickens. You may hear this. I haven't heard it in many years, but some people will argue in terms of fiqh based on what the chicken eats. Okay? It's an amazing thing that we see, and this is just personal opinion here. I want to make sure, camera, this is personal opinion, not fiqh, not sunnah, not Quran, okay? I grew up in North Carolina where we used to go out in the morning and feed our chickens. And we ate those chickens. I mean, we fed them and we ate. And I remember as a little boy, you know, chickens sort of like pet, they'll eat anything. Just anything. And I used to think, how can these things be clean? Just look what they eat. And if you smell the smell of a chicken house, then it'll also make you have certain questions. So just thought I'd throw that in there that's free. So also I wanted to touch base on this because I've been asked this question. Muslims are allowed to hunt. They are allowed to hunt, but they are only allowed to hunt if the food is going to be eaten. They cannot hunt for sport. So I'm going to give you just some conditions about hunting. Muslims are permitted to hunt lawful animals and birds which cannot be easily caught and slaughtered. Now, can I hunt a lamb?
Yes.
No.
Why not?
Why? Because I'm going to show you, but I can walk right up to that lamb and that lamb will follow me anywhere I want it to go. That's why Mary had a little lamb, the fleece was white as snow. Everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. That lamb will just go right with her. And when I've slaughtered lambs, it really is that way. It's like if you only knew what you were in for. Now, well, you're going to be sacrificed for the sake of Allah, alhamdulillah. But you cannot hunt an animal that will come to you with ease. That's not called hunting. Okay? That's called torture.
So if you hunt an animal, I mean, do you have to like?
It's got to be an animal that you
Yeah,
can't.
you're gonna eat, but like usually when you're gonna slaughter a lamb, don't you pray, make a prayer? Or
Yes.
So what do you do when?
I'm going to tell you, it's all in the slides. You're ahead of me. That's good. I'm glad you're back, Nora. Keep me on my toes. So the hunter must be sane, and he must intend to hunt for the sake of Allah, to bring food. Okay? The game must belong to the category of animals that cannot be easily slaughtered, as they tend to run away from humans. If, however, it can be slaughtered, such as sheep and chicken, then it is not permissible to hunt them. Okay? The hunting weapon must kill by reason of its sharpness, like an arrow or a bullet. And that's not and you have to use, I wish I had someone that knew about bullets, but you have to use a bullet that has an arrow shape. So one that looks like this. You cannot use a bullet that looks like this, that goes in like a 12-gauge shotgun. That blows the animal to smithereens. That's not allowed. So it has to be like an arrow. Okay? The name of Allah must be pronounced when the hunting weapon is discharged. So I've got my bow, and I'm hunting for the sake of Allah to bring something home for my family. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. You've got to say this when you dislodge when the weapon is discharged. If the hunted game is still alive, it must be slaughtered straight away, according to Islamic precepts. Why is that?
You know what it is?
Suffering.
We don't want the animal to suffer. Islam is the most humane approach to purifying food. And if you remember what I told you, when you slaughter an animal, the more pain they're in, the more toxicity goes into their blood, into the actual meat. It's adrenaline. There's a release of hormones. And if that's not drained out quickly, then you're eating that. And as I've said before, there's a tremendous amount of research today that ADHD and certain challenges that we're having today are a result of eating meat that wasn't slaughtered according to how Allah prescribed. Because you're eating a lot of animal stuff. And so now we're acting like animals. I said that one time before, and they said, no, we were doing that before that. But anyway, hunting is permitted in Islam only when necessary for food. Taking the life of an animal for sport without intending to eat from it or otherwise benefit from it is prohibited. Now, this spiny-tailed lizard, and if there's an Arab that knows about this in the room, they actually have a festival in Saudi Arabia every year. And if you get online, you can actually see a stew made out of these lizards. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. So it's called the Dab lizard delicacy. And Abdullah B. Abbas reported, I and Khalid B. Walid went to the apartment of Maymuna along with Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and there was presented to him a roasted lizard. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam stretched his hand towards it, whereupon some of the women who had been in the house of Maymuna said, "Inform Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam what he intends to eat." Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam lifted his hand. I said, "Messenger of Allah, it is forbidden?" Question mark. He said, "No. It is not found in the land of my people, and I feel that I have no liking for it." Khalid said, "I then chewed and ate it while Allah's Messenger was looking at me." So this just goes to show that he didn't like it, but it was not prohibited. And it is a delicacy in Saudi Arabia, this spiny tail lizard. And I found a picture of it for you, and then I couldn't find it again when I went to insert it in the presentation. Not a very pretty lizard, funny enough. All carnivores which have fangs, such as lions, tigers, wolves, dogs, cats, etc., are haram. So now we know that in certain countries they eat cats and they eat dogs. But it is haram for us because it has fangs. Okay?
Chinese
And
eat
that's-
dog.
The Chinese eat dog. Yeah.
I work with Chinese doctors, and they said we eat everything of dog. They can pick out even placenta eating. Chinese, those days Chinese were backward.
Now, you see, I've heard people say that you can eat all birds, and that's not true. You cannot eat birds that have talons. And I'll show you what talons look like in just a moment. I have a picture for you. They're those sharp hook claws that stick in you if you try to mess with them. But hawks, falcons, vultures, and eagles are all haram. And I'm going to come back to this slide, but I wanted to show you this is what they look like. So a bird that is like this, because they use this to actually pierce their prey and then tear their prey apart. Okay, so now you see why. I thought this was a good picture. Wow. One of the few times I was successful in getting a good picture.
So you mean those who eat those birds who eat human flesh?
We cannot eat them.
No, you are
Vultures.
talking about the bird who use the
Yes.
vultures.
Yes, vultures. Yes.
Yeah, vultures. They are always in our dumpster,
Yeah, exactly.
in our area here.
So crocodiles, because they have fangs and live on the land, are also prohibited. So gators you can eat, but crocodiles you cannot eat. Okay? Now frogs. I've often been asked, can we eat frog legs? So I'm going to give you what the scholars have said about it. Abdul Rahman ibn Uthman recorded that a doctor asked the Prophet ﷺ about using frogs in medicine, and the Prophet ﷺ forbade killing them. This is narrated by Abu Dawud, and it was classed as a Sahih hadith.
We use all the time frogs for the research.
For research. But we're not allowed to eat them, okay? So this class is about what we can eat and what we can't eat and why.
Yeah.
So here's some pictures of fangs, so you're clear about it. Who could eat that pretty little cat right there? And I don't know if that was a cat or a bear over there on the other side, but that is a cat.
That was such
It's
a
just a blurry
horrible
picture,
cat.
right?
The
So
left
it's scary.
one, right
Yes,
one is
yes.
horrible.
Can you elaborate on the difference between the crocodile and the alligator?
Where the scholars, may Allah help me here, where the scholars argue is that one is a land-dwelling animal. Now there is a bit of an argument, but the majority of scholars have said what I said. I think I have a slide on it. Can I come back to that?
Yeah.
Don't let me forget, brother. Please don't let me forget. I don't want to. Don't I address this later? Yeah, I do address it later in a little. So otters and turtles. I've been asked this question, can we have turtle soup? I went to a restaurant and they had turtle soup. Was it halal? So the correct view is that to be on the safe side, it is permissible to eat them after slaughtering them properly, because they live both on land and in the sea. And this is the issue that we're moving into in terms of Yasmin's question. Here the rule is that in the case of animals that live both on land and in the sea, the rules concerning land animals should be given precedence to be on the safe side. So they must be slaughtered properly, except for crabs, which do not need to be slaughtered, even though they live both on land and in the sea, because they do not have blood. Not allowed to eat any animals which eat other animals, such as these reptiles. Now, I'm going to cover a few exceptions, and this was going to Issa's question, back to Issa's question, a very, very brilliant question, and I will be covering the argument about shark from the scholars, inshallah. And I'll be giving you the proofs that I use in terms of what my understanding. So, sharks obviously eat man, but the argument there comes from the fact that because they live in saline, the saline purifies the animal, the massive amount of saline they live in. And then also there's a hadith that I will give you where there was in the history of Islam a group that went to
You want to go ahead?
okay, who went to a place, and I'll share with you the hadith, and they actually found the bones of this large fish that they ate, and they were able to go through that bone with a camel. And so that proved that it was actually okay to eat shark in that case. So I'll be showing that to you. If we don't get to it this week, we'll get to it next week. I'm trying to move on because of I want to have our Jeopardy game. Eating snakes is unlawful. Now, there's also a controversy about this, whether the snake are poisonous or not poisonous. So you'll see the argument here. This is the opinion of Hanbali and Shafi. Both madhab, schools of fiqh, claim that eating snakes is unlawful because of their poisonous nature, as they can be harmful to the person who eats them. Also because the Prophet ﷺ ordered us to kill them, as reported by Muslim from Aisha radiallahu anha. That the Prophet ﷺ said, 5 are the harmful things which should be killed in the state of ihram or otherwise: snake, speckled crow, rat, voracious dog, and kite birds. Some people don't know what a kite is, and it's actually a kind of bird. So if the snakes were among the things that are lawful, the Prophet ﷺ would not have ordered us to kill them without profiting from them. So the majority of scholars say they're absolutely haram to eat snake.
A snake took the shaitan in the, to deviate the idol.
However, the Maliki school of fiqh thinks that eating snakes is lawful, providing there is no danger of poison to the eater, and also provided it's slaughtered in the Islamic way, i.e. cutting the throat after mentioning the name of Allah. And I get such a graphic picture. I'm trying to imagine somebody holding the head of a snake and saying Bismillah. You know, Allahu Alam, Alhamdulillah. I'm not trying to, I am being a little funny here, because I'm a visual person, and so I try to imagine somebody, you know, well, okay, this snake doesn't have a triangular head, so it's not poisonous, so Bismillah, and I'll make some soup this afternoon. Alhamdulillah. The Shafi school says that all the edible parts of a shark, even if a shark preys on humans, is halal for human consumption. The discussion concerning sharks is our fiqh, and our fiqh manuals is usually found in the context of a counter hukum with that of crocodiles and another man-eating aquatic predator. All the 4 major Sunni madhabs are in agreement that consuming all types of fish is without doubt halal, due to the explicit mention of this in the Holy Quran and Sunnah. Man-eating shark is controversial. The permissibility of eating all types of fish without the need of carrying out the Islamic method of slaughter is a special dispensation given to us by Allah Most High, the All-Wise, the All-Knowing. Fish has been exempted from the general ruling of the impermissibility of eating dead animals, and it can be consumed even if it was a man-eater, such as a shark. Yes, brother?
No, fish, it's in Quran and Sunnah.
Exactly.
The rest of them is the school of thought.
And that's what I'm teaching, isn't it?
Yeah, so really it should not matter.
Well, it does, because what happens is that the people that have just embraced Islam are very vulnerable. So when they go to the masjid and somebody says, Astaghfirullah, you did this or you did that, they need to be equipped with why and where it comes from.
Oh,
so they can then say, but this is a school of thought.
Okay.
This doesn't come from Quran. And that's why I'm teaching this.
Oh, okay.
But I understand what you're saying, and I certainly see the wisdom in what you're saying. But I know for me, it was very, very tough, because I would have questions like Yazan about, you know, the difference between the crocodile and Now, one scholar said one time that the crocodile, if you look at their teeth, the crocodile has a fang. The alligator doesn't have a fang. So that scholar told me that the reason that the crocodilia were not allowed was because they had those fang teeth and the alligator doesn't. Allah knows best. All I want is for you to be equipped that when these things are discussed, you can say, my teacher taught me about this. And this is the argument. These are mostly fiqh arguments. The Quran says that we can eat that which is from the sea. And I do want to give you, I hope I do get to this hadith because I think it's quite amazing and quite beautiful. And this is why it's so hard to generalize in Islam. When we generalize, see, and like last week somebody said in the class, well basically it's you just can't eat any man-eaters. Well, that's not the case. As you can see today. And that's why I said, well, let's hold off on that till we get to the proof. Because I want you to understand where we come from and why there are exceptions and, you know, sort of dispensations, exceptions to the rule. Lawful to you is the pursuit of water game, fishing, and its use for food, for the benefit of yourselves and those who travel. Now, what my beloved brother was saying here is in the Shafi school, they do not eat shrimp and lobster. Do you know why?
They're scavengers.
Their argument is that because they're scavengers, they're unclean. Okay. According to the Quran, you have permission to eat them. But we respect that they have adopted this, alhamdulillah. But when we argue with it in terms of scholarly debate, we have to come with proofs. Well, why? Yes. Was that a question, brother? You were just stretching your arm.
I was just stretching.
That's what I thought. We allow that, brother.
That
So,
Christian Isa alayhi salam used to call fishermen or something
Yes.
religiously, and he got there and he made so many fish
yes.
people.
He fed them from the few fish and a few loaves to feed a multitude of people. That's one of his miracles. Sayyidina Jabir ibn Allah, may Allah be pleased with him, said, the messenger of Allah, Allah bless him and give him peace, sent troops to the sea coast and appointed Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah